So it's time for another one of these. This was one that popped up on my radar in just the last couple of days. So I'm going to kind of talk about this and go through it. I don't know how much of a scam it is, but it felt very peculiar, very weird, and I think it's important to address stuff like this because it is popping up, and it's happening a lot with to accounts that are I don't know. It feels like this is the kind of thing that would affect men more than it does women, but I don't know. You can let me know in the comments. But this account approached me. It says her name is Ivy. She's a flight attendant chasing horizons, loves the beach and morning yoga, and that she's from Iowa. And she's got a link for her socials, and she joined in 2 years ago. So I'm not on X a whole heck of a lot. And so I go a long time without checking messages, especially the message requests that come in from people that I'm not following or aren't really following me. But Monday, December 1st, yesterday, I went in there and just see what may have popped up. And I see this set of messages. And they started on Thanksgiving Day, November 27th. And there's messages for a couple days in a row. Hey, your fantasy series sounds cool. Love the merch too. Then the next day was, are you scared of me? Then Saturday the 29th was, hi. And then Sunday was, I think you typed a message, forgot to hit send, and then corrected it with but. I didn't see this, but eventually I responded to it yesterday. So like always, whenever I get something like this, especially when it references my books, I am willing to see what it has to say. So I said, no, I'm not scared of you. Your messages were sent to my request folder since we don't follow each other, and I don't get notifications for those. She says, that makes sense. I'm glad you saw them, though. I said, so you've looked at my fantasy book, and I meant to say books, and I correct myself with fantasy series. You've looked, and the merch I have for it. She said, yeah, I love fantasy books. What's your series about? Okay. Well, if she actually knew anything about my fantasy series, she would have looked into it and she would have known exactly what it's about because it's pretty straightforward. But so I indulged. So I respond back with dragons, elves, magic, and vampires that don't sparkle, which is what I usually pitch when I'm doing in-person events. And she says, ooh, sounds dark and cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It gets dark in some places, but it doesn't lean too heavily towards the darkness. She says, I like that. Balance is key, right? And I say more or less. So which piece of merch based on my books did you like? And she says, the dragon pin. It's so pretty. So this is my merch store that I have on Teespring, and I'm not showing this to promote it or anything like that. If you want to check out the links are in the bio, whatever. But you can see here that I've got notebooks, I've got shirts, I've got a pennant, I've got mugs, I've got phone cases, just apparel and accessories. At no point in this list of things is there a pin specifically with a dragon. Now, there is a sticker pack, but it doesn't depict a dragon. And so I'm left wondering what the hell she's talking about because none of it makes any sense. So this is where the conversation continues. So I say, the dragon pin? What dragon pin? I must have misseen. You didn't post a pin, did you? I said, my merch store has shirts, a hoodie, mugs, notebooks, phone cases, and a pennant and a sticker pack. She says, oh, cool. I love the notebooks. Which one do you like best? I'm thinking of playing around with the designs. And this is a real thing that I'm thinking about doing to add more, stuff on, for merch and all that. And so this was her response. She says, the one with quotes makes me want to write. So I respond with, while I encourage everyone to write, which I do. I mean, I've hosted writing workshop classes. I'm part of a writing group. I say, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, you never actually looked at my merch store. And she says, you caught me. I said, okay, level with me. What are you after? And she says, honestly, I'm looking for someone to talk to, share thoughts with, maybe something more. That seems a little fishy because X is not a dating site. It's not. It's not. Let's be honest. Well, I'm sure some people have probably found relationships. That's not what I'm on here for. Anyway, so this is how the conversation continues. So she sends me this unsolicited picture, which is of the same person who is in the profile pictures and the other posts that are on this X account. And so I responded with, why didn't you just say that? Why did you put me on about my books and my merch, even if you never looked at them? And this is where things are starting to get a little weird, because it feels like the whole thing is building towards a false or very rapid rapport. And that's one of the things I've found that scammers have a tendency of doing, is they build a false rapport because they're trying to sell you on something, or they're trying to hook you on something so that they can get information or whatever. And you see this a lot of the times in organic sales for things. I mean, I have to start an instant rapport whenever I do book sales, but when you're doing it from an online platform like this, it feels weird and fishy. I'm down here now. Her response says, I guess I was nervous. I didn't want to come on strong, wanted to find common ground. And that kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it seems like the whole thing feels very immature. And so she said, and so I say, I see. How old are you? I'm 22. I said, so why did you want to talk with me? I think I might be too old for you. I'm almost twice her age. She says, age is just a number, right? I liked your vibe, your words, felt a connection. I said, it can be just a number. So where are you from? And again, I'm trying to see if what she says matches what's in her profile. And maybe it does. Maybe she's being real. I don't know. But for me, this feels like a trap, because I'm an older guy. I'm going to be 44 next year. She responds by saying that she's from the Midwest. I'm from Iowa. And she sends me another unsolicited photo. And again, this photo matches with some of the others that are on the profile, the same tattoo patterns, the same designs, same face. It's all very much the same. And they could be just held on as stock or whatever. They don't look like they're fresh or anything like that. But to continue on the conversation, I say, I have a friend who lives in Des Moines. I don't know, actually, for sure. There's a guy in our podcast group on Feast of Fandoms who lives in Iowa. I'm not sure what part. He's not originally from there, but I'm just trying to carry on the conversation to see if what she's saying matches what's on her profile. Because if we go back to that first part of the video, she does have it marked as that she's from Iowa. And she says, that's where I live. Small world, huh? Yeah, it is. So I ask if she's in college. She says, no, she's not. I ask her what she does. She says she works as a flight attendant, so she gets to travel. I said, that's really cool. Which airline? She says, American Airlines. And a lot of this does feel like organic conversation. It feels, so it doesn't feel like your typical scammer, because you don't have the grammatical errors and syntax errors that you normally see with someone who's not from the United States, or who isn't a native English speaker trying to scam you. The conversation flows very organically. And so, that's part of the reason why I was willing to give this a shot, to check it out. But again, I'm not giving a whole lot of information about myself. I'm asking more of the probing questions. That way I can see if things are matching up. And they do. And so I continue. I say, that's cool. What's your favorite place you've been to? Which she completely ignores the question. But she does say that she loves her job, that it's fun. And at that point, I had a lot of stuff going on with work. I just wasn't able to keep on going with the conversation. And so I just kind of let it hang. But then today, December 2nd, I get a message that says, you there? And I said, yes, I am. And she says, I feel safe talking to you. I said, okay. And this is where the twist comes. This is where all this rapport building has led to. My inbox is so full, and I want to keep getting to know you. You should really check out my OF to see my wild side. this is where this was leading. So I immediately respond with, the inbox on X doesn't get full, and I'm not switching platforms, especially not OnlyFans. She completely glosses over my statement and says, I feel comfortable sharing it with you. Sends me the link, and then another unsolicited picture. Again, you can see the tattoos match. This is in line with everything I've been seeing on the profile. But here's the rub, is that I'm not a fan of OnlyFans. I'm not a fan of platforms like this. I mean, I've joked about, doing videos where I'm vacuuming shirtless to gain some extra, passive income, but nobody really wants to see that. Nobody. And so to be fair, I'm not a fan of these kinds of sites because it is toxic and they are predatory towards men. As I said, these are predatory type videos and content, and they prey on men, especially older men, sometimes younger men, I guess. But the whole point is it preys on our need for connection. It preys on our need for intimacy. It preys on our this idea that it's a simulated relationship, and it's not a relationship. Men who subscribe to this kind of content, it's not a relationship with that person. It's a relationship that they have with the money that we are spending on them. It's essentially paid pornography or paid prostitution without the sex, without the actual act of doing anything. And it's toxic, it's unhealthy. So in reviewing the account, I considered doing a screen grab video of the profile, and there are a lot of pictures at the very beginning, at the top of the profile, that were very risque, ranging from kind of like a mild risque to very not super graphic, but like bare rear end, upward male gaze shots with a camera. It's super inappropriate. And this kind of stuff, like I said, is predatory. The whole point is to get guys to look and to subscribe to OnlyFans, and it is the worst. And while this isn't necessarily a scam, this is the kind of predatory crap that is aimed on social media towards guys. So just protect yourselves and make sure you know what you're looking at, and don't give out any information.